Hi everyone, Melanie here from Sweet Thing Black Orchid, and I'm going to attempt to answer some questions that we have about another one of our very fun cakes. It's a baby shower cake called Lucky Baby, and of course, you know me, I have a handy little picture of the cake. Hopefully you can see that. It's a three-tiered baby shower cake, and of course you can make this cake whatever you like it to be. The questions that we so frequently get related to this cake are the middle tier. How did you get that shape? You can see that it's a little bit rounded at the top, cinched in the middle, and then the effect. I don't know if you can see the effect, but there's kind of a crystallized shimmer effect on that particular tier. Okay, and then the other question is, what are these things on the side? Are these toys? Are they candy? How are they made? Okay, and then the pregnant lady on the top. All right, so we're going to try to attempt to answer those questions for you. To talk about the middle of the cake, how we got that shape, I'm going to illustrate this with a cake dummy simply because I don't have the ability to have a cake here in the office. But we literally just took a regular cake, whichever size you choose to make your cake to get this effect on, and we stacked it. We dirty iced it or chrome coated it, whichever you'd like to call it, and then we refrigerated it. Before we talk more about sculpting on the cake and getting the actual shape, a couple of things that you need to know when you're actually working with cakes that you're going to cut away from or sculpt. It's very important that you get a very thick, heavy, dense cake recipe. Nothing worse than using, for the newer crafters, if you're using your everyday cake recipes that you have at home or for box cakes from the store, once you start carving them, if you do any kind of detail or if you put heavy fondant on them, they're going to crumble, they're going to fall away, or they're going to slope. So you want to make sure that you're using a very thick, dense cake. You can go online and find those recipes, Google or search for sculpted cake recipes, dense cake recipes, and you'll find something. You can always write us and we can show you where to go to get those recipes. And then the other thing that you need to know when you're sculpting cakes is that you need to work with them when they're very, very, very cold. Not frozen. You never want a frozen cake, but very cold. So you want to make sure that after you've stacked this cake, that you refrigerate it for at least 5 to 6 hours so that it's cold through and through. We like to really put them in overnight, but you can do that. You never ever want to work with a cake that's room temperature, and certainly not a cake that is warm. Okay, so with that, going to my dummy, you can use a serrated knife, which is when we're doing a lot of extensive cutting on cakes, we use serrated knives. But for this particular project, I used a very short and a very sharp paring knife. You guys all know what a paring knife is. I'm using this particular knife because I have a lot of little tiny grooves that I want to get into. And I just need really a quick skim over my edge. All right, so I'm going to show you this picture one more time so that as I'm talking, this kind of makes sense to you. So again, we're going to talk about this rounded edge here and this middle area that looks just a little cinched. Super simple, folks. All you need to do is take your paring knife and just skim off all the way around a little bit of the cake. And you'll do it, always go less first, and you can go more as you go so that you can get it. You can go from a very sloped effect to just a really soft edge rounded effect. If you just really want to do a minimal effect on this, you might not even want to sculpt it. You might just want to roll your fondant a little bit thicker and round off your fondant with your shapers or even with your hand. If you're using your hand, make sure to not press too hard, or make sure your hands, believe it or not, are not really, really hot or really, really warm, because you'll soften the fondant too much and push it in too much. But for this effect, we did take off enough to give it a nice soft slope, and we literally just sculpted off the edge all the way around. Very simple. And for the cinched effect in the middle, if you're a newer sculptor, if you're not exactly sure of the precision of your skills, you may want to take, while the cake is still in frost, to take a ruler and measure up about 1 inch from the bottom and about 1 inch from the top, and mark the center area with just little marks all the way around so that you'll know where to take the cake from. And we literally just carved it out. Let me kind of turn this way, maybe this will help a little bit, but we just kind of carved. I need a cameraman. We literally just kind of carved out, let's do it like this, carved out all the way around, just the middle section, and that's it. Then once you coated it with fondant, you can do a little more kind of sculpting and pressing the cake in and rounding and smoothing it to get it just where you want it to be. Once you've covered it with fondant, you definitely want to let that cake sit for a day so that it can harden up, because the next step is going to require that you press against it a little bit, and you don't want to press against a soft fondant because you'll distort the shape of your cake. So for the crystallized effect on the cake, we just used a large grain sugar, which you can get at any of your cake supply stores, a lot of times at your candy stores, and certainly, of course, at your cake suppliers online. And I'm going to attempt to pull a little bit of the sugar out into my hand and manipulate the camera over so that you can see the large granular effect. A lot of you are already familiar with the sugar, but for some of you that are newer to this, can you hopefully see that? Okay, it's just a very large grain of sugar, and you are going to, after you wet the cake, you're going to press it against the cake. Now, what to wet the cake with? You can use water, but we don't necessarily suggest it. If you put too much water on fondant, it will begin to eat away at the fondant, cause craters and dips in it if it pools, and literally just kind of deteriorate the quality of the fondant level that you've worked so hard to shape. So we're going to suggest that you use rum or brandy, and you're going to use a light, clear rum or brandy. You don't want to use a brown one, because if you're going with a lighter colored cake, you could potentially risk staining the cake. Now, do not worry about the brandy or the rum sinking into the cake and liquoring up the cake. There's nothing worse than giving a rummed up cake to a pregnant lady. But it's going to evaporate, so you don't have to worry about that. That's a question that we often get. Well, this is a person that doesn't drink. No worries. It is going to evaporate off well before you're even finished decorating it. But it does provide enough wetness for applying some of the lightweight decorations, and in this case, to get the sugar to stick to the cake. So you're going to, for the top, just sprinkle the sugar over the top and press it in. And for the sides, there's no other method to this except for using your hand. You're going to sprinkle the sugar in your hand, get it very close to the cake, and just push it up against the cake with lots of sugar in it. Push it all. You're not going to push so hard that you'll crack the dry fondant, but just push enough so that it's sticking to the cake. And you'll so know this is easier than you could have ever possibly imagined. So just put the sugar in and stick it all over. And then, of course, dust away your excess sugar, and voila, you're completely finished with that part. Okay? You can, once you've let that sit, you may find some areas where there's a little lump of sugar. After it's dried a little bit, just kind of dust it away. And if you need to touch it up a little bit because you've taken too much sugar away, get a small paintbrush, dip it in your brandy or rum, touch it up, and it's very simple, very easy to do. If you're getting, if you have a small box of sugar, you may want to go ahead and get 2 of these, because you have to know that there's a lot of wasted sugar. That's one of the downfalls of using this technique, but the end product is well worth it, and you have a nice sparkly prismatic kind of effect when the light hits those large crystals. It's very pretty, very elegant, and it kind of just makes it a delightful little cake. Now, all of the pieces on the side, very simple. We just use candy molds. That's it. We used, in this case, because this was, I believe it's been a while, I believe this was a white cake. We used white chocolate, or if you want to use white candy, and we dyed, we added gel, food coloring. For the pink ones, we literally used a baby bottle candy mold. We used a safety pin, a building block, a rubber ducky candy mold, and we've attempted to give you candy mold numbers in the past, but what we're finding with the candy mold number is different manufacturers will apply a different number towards them. So what I would suggest for you to do is go to Sugarcraft. Go to Sugarcraft online and just look up baby shower or baby cakes or baby. Just type in the word baby and you'll go to all the different molds. And of course you can customize that and put whatever you want on there. Now, as far as the little pregnant lady on the top, bad news. There is no mold for her. You just literally want to take 2 balls of course, we like to use 50% fondant, 50% gum paste. Mold out her belly and her head. We depressed holes in for her head, and we just literally took a sheet, in this case, that we made floral. This was cool. The lady who commissioned us to do this cake sent us a picture of the expectant mother's dress. So we were able to customize the dress by doing that. And we just wrapped that around the big ball, plopped the head on, and you use 2 like sausage rolls for the arms and for the legs, and that's really it. And then put a little hat on it. If you need more specifics on how to carve that lady out, write us. Okay, again, or any more specifics about any part of the cake, you can reach us at info@sweetthingblackorchid.com, or you can give us a call at 301-351-8042. And we have a brand new fan page up at Facebook, Sweet Thing Black Orchid, and we would love it if you joined us and click like there. Okay, hopefully that helps. If not, let us know. Take care. Bye-bye.